Welcome back to the third part of the best moves for every character in Smash Ultimate, as we've already done the first two parts, which you can check out in the top bar screen right now. Now, I want to say as well with this, I do want to continue making videos like this in the future, and I really appreciate all your support. So if you want to see anything like this in the future, probably a video on the worst moves for every character, I'd really appreciate if you hit that subscribe button, as we are already, 3 parts in. With that in mind, I do want to say that the last video I said Wolf's down smash was his best move, Nair is probably a better move, and as well for Rob, down B is probably a better move than a side B. With that in mind though, let's get going. Greninja has a ton of great combo moves, a lot of decent kill moves, but I feel like the most important part about this character is going to be his kill confirms, and that's really what makes him so good. He has a lot of safe moves that lead into kill moves, and not that many other characters have these. Now, his two moves that do this are going to be his down tilt and his dash attack. For myself, I'm going to say that down tilt is slightly better because it is a little bit more consistent. You can use it a tiny bit safer in neutral, and yeah, while they're both pretty much on the exact same level, maybe down tilt's a little bit better. Palutena has a lot of very busted moves. A lot of her tilts are kind of bad, but when you look at her aerials, you got back air, you got up air, you got forward air, which are all great. But number one, we got ourselves Nair. Now, Palutena can't spam Nair all the time in neutral like some other characters, like Ike, for example. But Palutena's Nair is still really good, pretty much all the time. Still, you can space with it pretty well. You can jump on your opponent's shield and shield poke with it. And of course, when you hit your opponent, you can go Nair to Nair to Nair to Nair to maybe an up air, forward air, or back air, and just get like 40% for free. If they're heavyweight, you get 70% for free. This move's ridiculous. People say she gets carried by it all the time. And yeah, in my opinion, it's probably her best one. Pac-Man has a lot of decent things in his kit, from his aerials to his tilts to his smashes. They were all kind of buffed up a decent amount, but the one thing that makes him just so good is going to be his neutral B. Now, his down B and his up B both set up for this move greatly. If his down B was, a move by itself, without the neutral B, it'd be fine. You could put down the fire hydrant, hit it at your opponent, it'd be fine. His up B you could use on the ground, makes it people kind of run for you, that'd be fine. But there's so much better with his neutral B. There's so much better with the move that is like 6 projectiles in once. That can kill, that can deal a ton of damage, that can stun your opponent, that can combo with Galaga. There's so much potential that you can do with Pac-Man's neutral B. And while it is one of the hardest moves to actually get good at using the entire game, it's definitely one of the best ones. I'm gonna be honest, Robin is like impossibly hard because he has so many great moves. Robin, of course, does have a lot of bad tilts and a lot of bad moves in certain situations, but as well you have L Thunder, which is just so good of a projectile. You have up air with, of course, the 11 version. You have forward air, which is just like a better Lucina forward air. You have back air, which kills super early. You have down air, which is actually a pretty good spike. You have up smash, which actually hits people when it kind of shouldn't, and you have down smash, which hits like way around you. I know it's kind of cheating, but with Robin, I'd say definitely just the 11 sword is his best move. Kind of a bit of a cheat, but I had to do it to him. The Monado arts make Shulk. Without those, he'd be good, but he wouldn't be nearly as good. I feel like he'd be kind of more like Ike, where, he has his good aerials, but that's kind of it. But with the Monado arts, he has more kill power, he has more speed, he has more combos, he can get out of disadvantage, he can ledge guard a lot better, he can edge trap a lot better, he can just do everything a lot better if you can master it. Of course, most people can't, but if you can, these are one of the best things in the whole game as well. Honestly, I have barely seen any Bowser Jr., so it's really hard for me to tell on this character. The one thing that I've seen a lot of people use effectively is combos into and out of his up air. It seems like a decent disjoint that combos very, very well. His forward air is also one of the better looking kill moves on this character, and seems to be relatively quick. Overall, Bowser Jr. doesn't really have anything that looks completely busted to me. He has a lot of decent moves, but probably up air, in my opinion, might be his best one. Duck Hunt's neutral B, his can, is a lot like Snake's, in my opinion, where it kind of creates the focus of his kit. He has a lot of other good moves, don't get me wrong, but when you have a can that comes out very fast, it can help you get out of disadvantage, that as well can lead into a ton of setups on your opponent that you can leave on the stage and hit your opponent into, that you can use with tandem with all of your other projectiles and all your other attacks. I think it's just one of those main things you have to focus on with Duck Hunt, and if he didn't have this move, he would be a lot worse. Okay, so Ryu and Ken both have the same best move, so I'm just going to leave that to Ken because I think he utilizes it a little bit better. But his second best move for Ryu is going to be his Fire Hadokens. Now, the reason I think that these are so good is because they give Ryu just a ton of pressure that Ken doesn't have. And this is kind of the main thing that Ryu, I think, has over Ken. The fact that you can throw one of these things out, get on your opponent's shield, and then apply a ton of shield pressure. Potentially break it, cross them up, really do whatever you want to. This is the one thing about Ryu that I say definitely puts him above Ken. The fact that he can shoot these, and the fact that his Hadokens can be shot much faster or slower than Ken's. Overall, just giving him a little bit better spacing than Ken in general. Okay, so in my opinion, Ken and Ryu got their best move in the last patch, which I think is kind of dumb, but this is just what I'm thinking. Ken and Ryu's close-up, hard jab is so good and so dumb. You can lead into it with both of the nairs, with a lot of their tilts in certain situations. Ryu can use, his Hadouken, whatever, for pressure situations into this, while Ken can sometimes Tatsu into this. And you go for the hard jab, and essentially it gives you a free true Shoryuken, or whatever other combo you want to start up. And it just does like 18% itself. It's ridiculous. You can also go down air into this hard jab into whatever you want, or go down B into the hard jab into whatever you want, or tech chases into this hard jab into whatever you want. Overall, yeah, this move, this move's a little spicy. As well, their jab is super good because you can go jab, jab, two Shoryuken. I think that would be number 2 for me. But yeah, in general, I guess the jab is the best. For me, Cloud kind of has a 3-way tie for his best moves. That between his forward air, his back air, and his side B. Now, his forward air is great because you can use it in neutral, use it for spacing. If it hits, you get a combo out of it, or you can just straight up kill your opponent at late percents with the edge of it. And it can spike. His back air, you can just spam over and over and over again, different timings, different heights, hit people that are trying to get off the ledge. That's amazing. And his side B, well, you can use that, cover it as an anti-air, and, you know, just get a ton of damage by going forward air into side B. Now, the most used one of these is probably going to be forward air or back air, while probably the most just broken one on any other character would be his side B. So for myself, I'm going to say side B slightly better as well because it does work with his down B, his limit break. Limit break side B, limit break cross slash. That is kind of a ridiculous move. One of his only really good consistent kill moves. And the fact that it's good being in the limit form and good just, you know, regularly for combos and an anti-air, for myself, makes it the best move for Cloud. All of Corrin's best moves got nerfed a ton from the last game. Her side B, which was just broken, that got nerfed a ton. Her down B, her counter, was made from one of the best to one of the worst counters. Her neutral B just doesn't really work anymore, doesn't really kill nearly as much anymore. And yeah, that kind of sucks. Now, she still does have some decent moves. All of her aerials in general are really good. All of her tilts in general are really good. All her smashes are really good. But if there's one best move, I'm going to say it's going to be a neutral air because it essentially just works like Ike's neutral air, but is a little bit worse. It combos a lot like Ike's. It has potential kill confirms if you do a turnaround landing neutral air into like an up air or a back air, which is kind of cool. And while it isn't nearly as consistent as somebody like Ike's, it's still pretty good and it's still really safe. Bayonetta kind of got nerfed on almost everything except for Witch Time, which might have potentially got nerfed a bit, but still, this is a great move. You can only use it once in a while, but you can use it to get out of disadvantage. You can use it when your opponent's throwing out attacks, and you get yourself a free smash attack out of this or a free combo out of this. It was just one of the best moves in the previous game. It's still one of her best moves now, and especially with everything else getting nerfed, yeah, that kind of moves up a bit. Inkling side B, her roller, busted. Inkling up B, that recovery, busted. Inkling down B for ledge traps, busted. But what's more busted and more useful for Inkling than all of those, it's gonna actually be her back air in my opinion. Now, on any other character, this back air would still be good, but I feel like on Inkling in specific, this back air is necessary. If Inkling didn't really have this back air, it would remove so much safety from the character. It would remove so much setups from the character. It would remove the basic neutral that Inkling has, which is mainly run around, throw out back airs, get into good positions, and then you throw out your other great moves. Then you throw out your kill moves, then you throw out the roller, then you throw out everything else. I feel like Inkling's back air just kind of sets up everything else for the character's kit, and since roller has been seeing less and less use as time has gone on, I'd say back air has definitely moved up a little bit past that. Oh boy, Ridley Nair. Ridley Nair is something else. For some reason, this move is just giant. It does a lot of damage. It shield pokes. It sends your opponent super far. It's just so good. Unfortunately, Ridley is a giant target. If you miss this, it can kind of suck. It doesn't have too much landing lag, but yeah, it can kind of be disappointing. But compared to everything else Ridley has, I mean, if this Nair is on any other character, it'd be so dumb. Okay, so with Simon and Richter, this is really hard because they have two different types of best move. They have their tilts, which of course forward tilt, that is just so good. Holy, it's super safe, super long range, can kill. It can miss shorter characters though, completely, which is why I'm not going to put it here. And then they also have all of their specials. Now, the thing about their specials is I feel like there isn't really a best one because they all have their different uses. Of course, the neutral B can hit people really high up. It can deal a ton of shield damage. It's great for that. The down B, it can ledge trap so well, but it can sometimes bounce off the opponent's shield and can sometimes be a little bit hard to set up. So the best one I'm going to say for myself is going to be side B, the Holy Cross, mainly because you can use this all the time. You can just throw out the Holy Cross behind you if you need to. If your opponent keeps shielding it, apply pressure with that, throw it straight at your opponent. It'll go towards them and then back, maybe hit them both times. You can combo off of it, potentially get some jank kill confirms off of it. Overall, they do have just a plethora of great moves, but Cross is, in my opinion, probably the one you're going to be using the most. King K. Rool's kind of weird because he actually got nerfed even though he wasn't that great, and some of his best moves were made a little bit worse. I should also mention that with King K. Rool, it's really awkward to say what are his best moves because like his back air is great and his down air is great if they hit, but most of the time they probably won't because they're way too slow. So if there's one move that I'm going to say would actually potentially hit in games that also just has a ton of utility, it's going to be his down smash. Now the reason I think this move is so good is because it has great super armor. It jumps high so your opponent oftentimes misses you and gets straight into the attack itself. And it kills super early. It just kind of does everything you want a heavyweight smash attack to do. And while I wish it could be a little bit faster, you know, it's fast enough, especially online, to do its job. Isabelle's best move really depends, I think, on the current matchup. Her forward and back air are always great moves, but other than that, her down B and her side B, which most people say are some of her best moves, really depend on what your opponent can do. If your opponent has a pretty linear recovery or just has ways that can't really get around the fishing rod, well, that can be one of her best moves. Just keep putting your opponent into disadvantage, hit them over and over again, and kill pretty early with it. It's pretty dang great. While on the other hand, if your opponent doesn't have a way to deal with Isabelle's down B, that can be one of her best moves, applying pressure all over the field as you're putting those down, playing around those, giving yourself a defensive wall. While if your opponent does have a way to beat those out, you know, they do kind of lose the usefulness. In my own opinion, I'm going to say that her down B is slightly more useful than her side because you can use it all the time, but both of them are pretty much on the same level for me. Incineroar is the grab guy, and while he actually has a lot better tilts and aerials than you'd think, grabs are definitely his best thing. Now, the thing about Incineroar is that I'm going to say that, you know, his grabs and his throws, the regular ones, are great, but I'm going to put his side B, the Alolan Whip, a little bit above those because it's something just special about him that just applies so much more pressure with this character because it gives you a far range command grab. So you can just, you know, use it towards your opponent, and if they're shielding or you really just doing any action, sometimes you can power through it, grab your opponent, and then hit them with the second part of the side B, kill them at like 80-90% near the edge of the cliff, and if you have rage going on at like 40%, it's kind of ridiculous. You can also choose to just throw your opponent right above you if you want to, and overall this move just gives you a lot of options, and is definitely one of those things that kind of key to Incineroar's playstyle. If you've actually tried to play Piranha Plant in tournament, well, kudos to you first off, and second off, you know that you just spam Patooey all day. That is just the character in tournament. You press neutral B, you shoot it at your opponent, you use it above you, use it in advantage, disadvantage, edge guarding, pretty much everything. It's just by far this character's best move. It has way too many usages. Now, if your opponent does have a reflector or can out-camp you, yeah, it kind of makes this move not really be that useful, and it makes, you know, Piranha Plant not really be that useful, but if you can use it, it can pull out some sick stuff. JoeK is chock full of ridiculous moves, from Arsene, everything, to the fact that he has throw combos that can do like 60% if your opponent doesn't do everything correctly against those, to his side B, which is a great projectile, to his down B, which is so fast and can actually be comboed out of that charges up your Arsene meter. The number one thing about this character, though, is going to be his gun. Now, the reason his gun is so good is because it gives you A, great projectile when you're just using it regularly, essentially free poke that your opponent can't really do anything against. B, it gives you a good edge guarding tool where you can use it, and if your opponent, you know, has to use a double jump to get back, you can essentially just clip them and they're going to insta-die. And C, you can use it while you're in disadvantage, shoot, and then shoot downwards, and then just like cover all of the area where your opponent would try to juggle you. Now, if they get to the side of you, that can sometimes work. But in general, yeah, it just almost always gets you at a disadvantage. And if you hit your opponent, you can combo it into an aerial sometimes or into a tilt. It's so dumb. It's such a good move. Yeah, that's in my opinion his best one. Oh boy. Okay, with Mii Brawler, the only move that I ever see when this character comes out is going to be either his side B, that being the fire one, his side B being the grabbing one, or his neutral air. And honestly, his neutral air is probably the number one thing I see. This thing is a lot like, you know, Wolf's neutral air, a lot like Link's neutral air. It just kind of does everything for the character. It gives him a lot of damage, gives him a lot of combos, helps him get out of disadvantage, helps him in advantage. It just kind of just puts out his leg, does everything you want. It's a great neutral air. The tornado for Mii Sword Fighter, his neutral B, is so good that it kind of made Mii Sword Fighter into a bit of a gimmick character because of it, which is kind of weird because in general he has okay tilts, okay aerials, is kind of just a general sword fighter character, but with his tornado you have a far range comboing projectile that can lead into upper earlier percents, get a lot of damage, lead into upper later percents and kill it like 70 or 80, or near the edge of the stage use your tornado and go into up B, the, you know, Link version, and kill your opponent at like 50, 60, 70% depending on their weight. Overall, it is a bit of a gimmick and it really wouldn't be that great on any other character. It'd still be pretty good, but not that great. But when you land as Mii Sword Fighter, he gets so much out of it and kind of makes his kit come together. Mii Gunner's neutral B, like Samus, Dark Samus, and all the other chargeable projectiles, is definitely one of this character's best moves, just because, yeah, it gives you a ton of movement, yeah, it gives you a giant damaging projectile at far range that can kill. It just kind of does what all these characters want to do. In general, if Mii Gunner was a little bit faster, I think this, along with everything else, would actually make it potentially a better character than Samus and Dark Samus, but as it is, you know, pretty good character, pretty good move. I do wish this charge shot was a little bit stronger, though, as it does feel a tad bit weak. But anyways, that is going to be every single character's best move in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, in my own personal opinion. Now, as always, please tell in the comment section down below what move you personally think is better. Of course, different moves are good in different situations and different scenarios, so one best move may not always be the best move in every situation. It's just kind of one of the key moves for the characters, or one of the moves that just is really dumb in one way or the other, that I see quite often, or that I think is just one of the best moves. Now, with that in mind, if you guys enjoyed this series, make sure to hit that like button. Subscribe if you want to see any more in the future. As I said earlier, I will be making a worst move for every character, as I think that would also be really interesting. And I'd really like to hear you guys' own opinions about the worst moves for every character before I make that, so I can kind of get some insight from people that actually main that character. So please tell me down in the comment section below of all that. I appreciate all your support at this point so far. Top right of the screen is a card for a playlist of more videos like this if you enjoyed this. As always, guys, thank you all for watching, and have a smashing day.